Chapter 1: The People and the Food. Preparing food can be risky business. As humans, we have the propensity to make mistakes. Unfortunately, if we make a mistake with food, we create the potential for a foodborne illness. This is the definition of a foodborne illness: a disease transmitted to people by food. There can be many people involved in buying, selling, preparing, and serving food to customers. We'll talk about each of these people groups in Chapter 1. We'll highlight the role each group plays in making sure that food is safe for the consumer. We certainly want to take care of all of our customers, and especially those who are at a higher risk of contracting a foodborne illness. We will refer to these groups as high-risk populations, or we could say that they are more susceptible to foodborne illnesses. There are three groups that we consider high risk. The first group is elderly people. The elderly are at high risk because our immune systems weaken with age. The next group is preschool-age children, who are at high risk because they haven't built up strong immune systems quite yet. And lastly, people with compromised immune systems. This includes those who have certain medical conditions or those on certain medications. A few examples are people with cancer or on chemotherapy, people with HIV/AIDS or transplant recipients. Staff aren't the only ones who need training to keep food safe. The FDA Food Code requires that the person in charge, or the PC, of a food service operation become a certified food protection manager. That comes with a few requirements. First, managers must be on site at all times during operating hours, not just opening hours when customers are present, but any time staff is handling food. Not only is the certification required by most health departments, the person in charge must be able to demonstrate by action and/or explanation that they have the knowledge required to obtain the certification. During an inspection, the person in charge will most likely accompany the inspector throughout the inspection. Cooperating with the inspector is highly recommended. Most inspectors will welcome questions and in turn offer recommendations and suggestions for your facility. They will most likely be open to discussing critical violations and the corrections needed while they are present for the inspection, or will offer corrections to be completed before their next visit. All food chemicals, equipment, and services must come from approved reputable suppliers. Buying from approved or reputable supplier sources or vendors ensures that the food supply is safe and secure. It is always a good practice to follow manufacturers' directions. Over the next two slides, we'll be talking about government agencies. This first slide will be about local government agencies, and the next slide will be about federal agencies. Your state and local government agencies include your city, county, or state health departments. Health departments can also be referred to as local regulatory authorities. It's always a good practice to ask to see a badge from someone entering your facility to conduct an inspection. Asking for identification will ensure that they are authorized by the health department to conduct an official inspection. Listed here are some of your local regulatory authority responsibilities and activities. Those building new facilities are required to take their plans and specs to the local regulatory authority to approve construction. Conducting inspections is the responsibility of your local health department. Any sort of permission, for example licenses, permits, and variances, will be given through this agency as well. Your local health department will either write their own food code, or they may choose to adopt the model food code that is written by the FDA and change or adjust certain regulations to meet local needs. There are three federal government agencies that we need to be aware of. The USDA, or the U.S. Department of Agriculture, regulates and inspects meat, poultry, and eggs. The FDA, or Food and Drug Administration, regulates and inspects everything except meat, poultry, and eggs. The FDA, as mentioned earlier, writes the Model Food Code that serves as a guide or recommendation for food code regulations. The CDC is responsible for conducting research of foodborne illnesses and for setting the 5 most common critical risk factors of food contamination. As we conclude our discussion of the people, groups, and agencies associated with food safety, we realize by working together, we can minimize the risks of food-related illnesses. There are 2 main food groups that are most likely to become contaminated. They are TCS, that is time and temperature control for safety, and RTE, referring to ready-to-eat foods. Let's look at both groups. As we learn about TCS, time and temperature control for safety, we'll understand that some foods require attention to time and temperature limits and ranges. We need to keep hot food hot enough and cold food cold enough to avoid the temperature danger zone. More specifically, hot food should maintain a temperature of 135 degrees or higher, and cold food should maintain a temperature of 41 degrees or colder to reduce the risk of harmful bacteria growth. The temperature danger zone is a temperature range above 41 degrees and below 135 degrees. In this temperature range, bacteria thrive and can multiply quite rapidly. Let's take a look at some examples of TCS foods. These are fairly obvious. Most of us are aware that these foods need refrigeration or heat to stay safe to eat. The list of TCS food includes milk and dairy products, eggs, meat, poultry, fish, and shellfish and crustaceans. Here we see a few foods that are a little less obvious but are considered TCS: sprouts and sprout seeds, tofu or other soy products, and untreated garlic and oil mixtures. These foods are not so obvious. These foods are TCS because something was done to the foods to make them TCS. Let's take the tomato, for example. A tomato can exist in the extreme heat in the middle of summer in a garden. However, if you cut, cook, or peel the tomato, it becomes TCS, as it is now exposed to air and other possible conditions that invite harmful pathogens. A sack of potatoes is fine at room temperature. Once you cut, peel, or bake the potatoes, they are considered TCS and need time and temperature control to stay safe. Ready-to-eat foods are just that. They are ready to eat. If you can eat at safety without doing anything to it, then it is a ready-to-eat food. The food does not need any further prepping, washing, or cooking. Great examples include cooked food, washed fruits, and veggies, with edible peak, deli meats, sugar spices, and seasonings. Like TCS food, ready-to-eat food also needs careful handling to prevent contamination. You should never handle ready-to-eat foods with bare hands.